I strongly don't recommend you become a business owner. It is incredibly hard. It's exhausting, but just like statistically, you're designed to fail. So I don't recommend it. But entrepreneurs don't listen to what anybody thinks. Fundamentally, there's 5 steps. Aligning on where are we now? Where are we going? What's going to get in the way? What do we need to do to get us to where we want to go? And then how are we going to stay on top of our plan? In some cases, is they have A players who are culturally terrible. So the person performs great on paper, but it makes everybody around them worse.
This is an episode for business owners, for young entrepreneurs, or for aspiring entrepreneurs, or for anybody who's interested in businesses and who wants to lead businesses, even if you don't own one. I'm here with someone who is an expert in not only running his own business, but also in consulting for big and small size businesses all over North America. I've known you for I think 7 or 8 years now. And I have attended some of your strategic meetings
Strategic planning sessions, yeah.
with some big clients. And before we get started, we have a sponsor today. GeoCider is a local brand crafted here in Squamish near Vancouver on the way to Whistler. This is the margarita, no alcohol. This is the rosé, no alcohol. Blood orange, no alcohol. Black plum, 7% alcohol. And there's pear, Old World and pear. Pear is not here. Do you guys want to? I'm going to try the margarita. We have here rosé, blood orange, rosé. Okay, thank you. Franco, want to try the blood orange? No alcohol. Guys, go on the website, which is here in the description, and find out where you can get your GeoCider with alcohol or without alcohol. And I have a funny story here. So Frank and I, we were actually spending the whole day with the owner of the company a few days ago. And it was around 1 p.m., hot day. We were tired. And then he came with this case for us. Hey, here is a gift for you from the fridge. So cool. And I took one. Oh, yeah, sure. I didn't even realize that it had alcohol. I'm not used to drinking. So I had this, man, and 5 minutes later, I was feeling so tipsy. I was, guys, it's delicious.
It's very delicious.
Yeah.
I have to say.
So cheers.
Salud, santé.
Yeah. GeoCider. Let's get started. When people come to you, business owners or business leaders, do they usually have a problem that they need to solve? Or do they have a vision that they want your help with just to reach and fulfill?
Technically both. So given that our audience is kind of entrepreneurs, business owners, business leaders, we solve one problem, and our whole thing was to try to position ourselves to solve one problem, which is a team that is misaligned. They aren't on the same page in terms of where they're going. They either have too many opportunities or aren't sure about what's going on. And folks hire us to help them get on the same page, make a plan to move forward, and make sure that they have a clear, structure to do it. So strategic plan.
And what are the most common problems?
The most common problems is, so let's say you're leading a company. So our clients are anywhere between kind of 300, 400, 500 million dollars. They've got several hundred or 1,000 employees, and they have an executive team or board of directors of like 10 plus people. And you can imagine that if you're trying to get 10 people to figure out one place to eat dinner, it's hard enough. Now imagine trying to get 10 people to agree on a multi-$100 million company on where they want to take it. So they hire us to help them work through that conversation, figure out where they want to go, and then all of the kind of nuance in between of working collaboratively as a team. SME Strategy was founded in 2011, so we're coming up on 15 years. And originally, it was because my business partner ripped me off for about $100,000.
What?
So I started SME Strategy to help entrepreneurs kind of see what's around the corner, to like de-risk their businesses and what they were up to. At the same time, I was involved with a bunch of boards trying to get experience. And I found that, helping them have an impact. So it's like part de-risking, part having an impact. And then originally started off writing business plans, and then that evolved to like full strategic plans. And we kind of built up the organizations that we work with.
And what kinds of businesses at what stage do you help?
When we started 15 years ago, it was small businesses. The first client we ever had to do strategic planning was a workforce accommodation company in Smithers, BC. But otherwise, we did marketing plans for small businesses. The first check I ever got was training somebody on how to do Twitter. 3 hours of training for $100. That's my first like framed check. But really, it was SMEs, small to medium enterprise. Started with the small, now we're kind of up to medium and large.
And now, where are your team members located, and where do you usually operate?
2 in BC, 1 in Victoria, 1 here, 1 in Portland, Oregon, and 1 in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. But we travel across the US. So, at the time of recording, I had 9 sessions over 16 weeks, ranging from Edmonton. I just came back from Houston, Cincinnati 3 times, and across the US. So truly, like literally everywhere.
I have attended, I think, 2 or 3.
I think 2.
2? Yeah, 1 in Vancouver, 1 in Victoria. That was nice with open road.
Oh yeah, and then Kelowna.
Yeah, oh, 3.
3, yeah.
Yeah, 3. Oh, yeah. When I mentioned that you were coming on the podcast, I said, "Man, I learned so much by being in the room," because I would go for a day and I would listen to what these guys were talking about, and I had no idea that all these things existed. I thought, you start a business because you either offer a service or you sell a product, and you just sell the product and you hire people, or provide a service and you hire people. That's all. No, so the strategic meetings that you had were eye-opening for me, and I knew it wasn't for me back then, but I think I messaged you 1 or 2 years later, "Hey, you know what? I've been thinking about those things that you said before." So, one thing, where am I going with this? Becoming a business owner is not for everybody, right?
I strongly don't recommend you become a business owner, generally speaking.
Go ahead. Why?
It's a statistically dumb idea. You are statistically destined to fail. It is incredibly hard. It's exhausting, but just like statistically, you're designed to fail. So I don't recommend it. But entrepreneurs don't listen to what anybody thinks. So it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what everybody else says. If you're going to do it, nobody can stop you. And so that's kind of it.
So what does it take to be a successful entrepreneur in your opinion?
Oh, a healthy amount of ego, foolishness, a good idea, and what's the word? Resilience, all rolled into one. And then basically not quitting. The only reason I am successful is because I just haven't quit.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Because that's the only alternative. Like, yeah, it's just a time. You just have to make more money than you spend over time.
But what are the rewards if you are successful or if you don't give up?
I think it's important to define your own success because different people have different success. Some people's success is to have $100 million or like literally more in some cases. Some success is to have time freedom, and some success is to have more money than you would in a job. I was aiming at the last 2. I also wanted to be able to see the world and have people pay me to do it. So fortunately, I've been very fortunate to be able to like travel around to a lot of cool places, work with incredible teams that otherwise I would not have. But the adage is you work 16 hours for yourself, so you don't have to work 8 hours for somebody else.
Yeah, isn't it crazy?
Yes. But it's great. You wouldn't have it any other way.
But some people argue that there's a misconception here that when you are a business owner, you don't have a boss. But actually, everybody becomes your boss. Even people who work for you, you have to serve them and your clients. So basically, you don't have one boss anymore. Now you have all your clients, like 10, 20, 50 bosses. What do you think?
I agree. And then I would say the boss for most entrepreneurs, the worst boss is yourself, and you're constantly underperforming in many cases, as in like you have your own expectations and you have to meet your expectations. But yes, a good leader all of their employees or bosses. Leaders eat last, as they say, so you pay your employees probably before you pay you. And then you have customers and everybody else. So yeah, it's a lot to manage. But again, risk reward, you get a lot of perks for being an entrepreneur. But it's hard, not for everybody. And I literally wrote a book on all the mistakes you can make as an entrepreneur.
Oh, really? Tell me about the book. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've written 2 books, one on entrepreneurship. It's called I Wish I Knew, Entrepreneurship Lessons I Learned the Hard Way, so you don't have to, available on Amazon. And then I have one called Alignment, which is how to get your people, strategy, and culture on the same page. But I just did it as like a project. I wasn't trying to sell a bunch. I just I don't know, it's just the next thing to keep me engaged.
Oh, now we should sell them. Let's put the if you're watching this, the links are in the description. Are both
The
now?
books are actually very good. First one's better than the second one.
They're both on Amazon.
Both on
And
it.
you didn't bring any of them?
I didn't bring any.
Oh, we would have them here.
Well, it's
Oh,
okay. You know,
okay. So the description has both links now. Okay. Tell me about the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make.
I think the biggest challenge, let's start there. Biggest challenge for entrepreneurs is getting product market fit. So, there's product, price, place, promotion in terms of everything that a business owner has to think of. And so getting all of those things right and correct in enough time is the hardest part.
How do you do that?
Trial and error, because the hypothesis is you have something that somebody wants that they'll pay you for. And you just have to find enough of those people that will pay you so that it can sustain whatever lifestyle it is. So, when I was writing business plans, let's say, so I'd write a business plan or marketing plan for $2,500. Now I charge $17,500 for 2 days of work. Those are very different experiences for different customers solving different problems. And so your first question is, what is the problem that you solve for people? I need to solve a big enough problem for enough money that it makes sense for them to pay it. A lot of people that start businesses sell a thing that nobody wants or sell it too expensive that it's not worth it, or too cheap that it seems crappy. And so being able to find all of those things, and then some people have products that are great products that nobody knows about, which is kind of the typical consultant dilemma. There's people that are very good and bad at marketing. There are people that are good at marketing and bad at delivering. You fortunately, have a hybrid skill of good at what you do and good at promoting it, which not everybody naturally has. And then going back to being an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Some people just like to be told what to do. They want to have direction. They want to have leadership. Entrepreneurialism is just continuously having to re-chart your course every single day. Even as I was driving down, had an idea for a business line that I'm exploring. Well, you have to make time to think about that. You have to be willing to test and fail and invest in all of those things. But the critical part is you have a future that's greater than the pain that you have to go through as an entrepreneur.
Do you also seek discomfort? Like a lot of entrepreneurs say that they actively do.
I don't. In the sense that I don't think of being uncomfortable. I put myself in situations where I am comfortable with unknowing. So, for example, I decided this year, for whatever reason, to host a golf tournament, which objectively...
Which is happening now.
It's happening in a week, yep. It's objectively not a good idea because it's more work, takes me away from my core business. But for some reason, I'm going to do it. I want to have fun. I want to contribute. I want to make up money. I want to have a legacy. But, my core business is facilitating strategy meetings and coaching CEOs of big-ass businesses. It's not hosting golf tournaments. So I have 1,000,001 things that I need to learn and relearn and fail at. And so it's more, you have to be comfortable with failure, distinct from discomfort, because you are certainly going to fail. It's just how fast can you fail?
It's not what we learn at school, though.
Not typically.
Yeah, we're punished for failing.
Yes.
Do you think that's changing, or it is going to change?
I think that there's a purpose for school, and it teaches you things that you should know to be functioning in society. And I think that if they teach you the right skills and the right thinking, then that would prepare you to be a more successful person. So, for example, I am a C student, and I chose to be a C student because the trade-off was, what is the minimum amount of grades that I can get to not get kicked out of school? And then the difference between being an A student and a C student, I decided to take all that other time and be broader. So I had a job, I did athletics, I did volunteering, I did a bunch of other stuff because I personally valued breadth over depth. Because then I figured it would give me more opportunities for seeing the world, understanding things, and that kind of thing. So I think that that's what they should teach. Conversely, some folks just like to be specialists. They like to be A students. We need very, very smart people in very specific roles. So I think that you don't want everybody to be all things.
Since we're talking about what it takes to be an entrepreneur and who can or who should not be an entrepreneur, when did you discover that you had to be your own boss or you had to start a business?
When I was at Subway and I wanted to get the Subway melt, and my mom's like, no, that's too expensive. I love my mother. Thank you for providing me all this stuff. And she's like, get this one. It's the ham sandwich, right? It's cheaper. And I was like, but I want this one. And it was in that moment that I decided that that is why I want to be an entrepreneur, because I need to have control of the things that I want for my life. I do not want it to be in control of someone else, even though, it was my mother whose job it is to provide for me and all of those things. And so I had my first job at 14. I delivered newspapers at 9 years old. I had my 2 jobs when I was 16, and I just worked and went to school and did all those things.
What did you do when you were 16? Two jobs?
So I worked at my first official job. So I worked for the Real Estate Weekly delivering newspapers. My first official job with like a T4 slipper or whatever was a Pizza Hut. So I worked as a customer service rep and cook and well, everything but delivery. And then I worked at the gas station across the street. So if anybody's in Vancouver on 4th and Cypress and 4th and Burrard, there's a Pizza Hut, there's a Petro-Canada, and I worked there. And I worked at the Petro-Canada for 4 years, 6 years. And then the guy who owned it was kind of a de facto mentor because I learned about like what it takes to run a business, like what is shrinkage. I got to do some like tracking in the back. It was super valuable.
What was the most valuable lesson that you learned from that experience overall, starting to work so early, since you were 9 until you were 16, 17?
I think I learned how to talk to people. So, going through Pizza Hut, working at a gas station, there was a guy who, Ricky's Restaurants.
Yeah.
So the guy from Ricky's used to come in. I was in Kitsilano. So Kitsilano, Vancouver, BC is a very, very rich postal code. And so I saw a lot of rich people come in. Saw a lot of entrepreneurs come in. And it's not like I was talking to them, but I like built rapport with a lot of people quickly. I worked in hospitality for 10 years, and so I really, like, on an average day would talk to 50 to 100 people. Some people don't talk to that many people in their average week, and so it just helped me get really comfortable talking to tons of people all the time, which I think in hindsight supported me in my work. So just being able to build relationships and service well.
Another thing that I think that might happen in a case like that is if you just wait until you finish high school, go to college, and then you learn a lot of BS in college and in university, and how you're gonna graduate and you're gonna go into the labor force and you're gonna transform how things are done. So it's a little bit of humility that I think is lacking when you only go to university and learn all the theory and you want to get a job with a fair salary and you want to tell your bosses basically how it should be done. Do you notice that the skills that you got from that experience were also keeping your ego in check?
Those of you that know me, it's probably my ego is never in check. But let's say, I'll say
So it could have been worse.
it could have been, well, I'm sure it would have been worse. God forbid somebody gave me a good degree, so no disrespect, obviously, the degree. So I went to Capilano University, which was Capilano College turned into university. It's where people with not good school went. Okay. So UBC, SFU, those were like scholastic schools. A lot of people in my grade turned out to be entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs. They through the skills that they learn, and potentially also because like the faculty was phenomenal at teaching you very applicable, relevant skills. I volunteer a lot with UBC, SFU, a lot of consulting competitions. I sponsor them, blah, blah, blah. And I meet a lot of students who have no practical experience, who have a lot of book learning, who focus on their grades, as they should, because going to UBC, SFU, others will set you up in a track to get a job somewhere, but it doesn't give you that like depth and breadth of experience. So I'm incredibly grateful for the education that I got. It took me 7 years to do a 4-year degree because I ran ESL school and 2 coffee shops at the same time.
Okay, so how many jobs did you have from your childhood until you graduated from college or
From
university?
university.
Yeah.
So I worked as a waiter at the Revolving Restaurant. I owned an ESL school with a business partner, the one who ripped me off. Coffee shop, 2 coffee shops with the same business partner that ripped me off. I had a nightlife website called Happening, so half in Japanese, half in English. I put on rock concerts at the Red Room and other venues across the city. I had a nightlife website that evolved into a wine directory. So todovancouver.com, and then Red 9 Productions, shout out Red 9 Productions, still going on for the rock concerts, and then Vancouver Kelowna Wine Tour, which was a winery tour website, because when I worked at the restaurant, we go to a lot of wineries, so created a directory back when directory websites were cool.
Wait, my question was, what did you do before graduating?
So that was all before graduating.
Yes.
Yeah, and then pizza, and then a bunch of I did Jewish catering company. I worked as a sidebar there, and I took contracts with like Inventa and other promotional things. So, when you go to like a big concert and there's activation where people give out promo stuff, I used to do that as well. I teach people how to do BC Lotto, and yeah, I've had a lot of jobs. I've worked very hard.
Cool. So let's go back to the mistakes that business owners make, entrepreneurs make, right? Your first book. What are the 3 biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make?
Thinking about themselves. People don't care about you, they care about themselves. So I'm building a product that I want. No, does your customer want that? I think, yeah, the product market fit piece critically. What's coming out to me is just understanding finances and understanding profitability. I think there was a thing I would do over is like have a better grasp of profitability and that kind of stuff. But
So accounting.
accounting, yes, but like just being tight with the numbers. But as a person, I've always valued speed over accuracy, which I think you and I are different in that sense. Not that you don't move fast, but you're very precise. So I'm like, it's okay. And my friend called it like a speeding ticket. You go fast, you make mistakes, it costs you money. So I probably spent more money in reinvesting and that kind of stuff. But you know, it's a life well lived.
Well, there's lots of sayings pretty much saying the same thing, which is better done than perfect only in your mind. What is the right way to say that?
Perfect is the enemy of good enough is a common one. And then better done it's better done than said.
Yeah, I always say better good and done than perfect only in your mind,
100%.
right? Yeah. I like to think that I am there in between because my wife thinks I move super fast. I always feel like I am behind. I'm falling behind.
You're very precise. You're very detail oriented. It's something that I appreciate about you. You catch things, and it's
Yeah. So how is it for you? Do you think you're too fast or fast enough?
I think I'm slow and fast. I'm not financially independent. I still work very, very hard, but for me it was about the long game, right? So I say like I'm slow compared to others, but fast, you know. And so I do a lot. I have a lot in my calendar. I get a lot done. But there's always somebody faster and there's always somebody slower. So I think comparison is the hard part as an entrepreneur. I think if I were to give a third or fourth tip, comparison is the thief of joy. Do not compare yourself to any other entrepreneur because it will just exhaust you because you'll always think you're failing and you're not. It's just like it's an internal race. There's no one competing against you. It's just you.
I was actually thinking about that. When we compare ourselves with other people, there's a lot of things that we might not know And then recently, we have spent a lot of time with William, for example, unstoppable, the guy who owns this company.
That's a winner.
Relentless. I love having him around. I always look up to him and wow, we are the same age. He moves fast. And there's others. We had All Show here a few weeks ago. Wow, what a successful and sweet man with principles. We're always looking at wow, look at this, look at that, look at. But the closer you are to let's say successful people, the more you realize what they are sacrificing in their lives or what they have had to sacrifice, right? So when you make the first assumption, comparing yourself to someone else based on where you are at, you might be doing something really wrong by not taking into consideration also not only where that person started their journey, but also what sacrifices each of you have had to make, or maybe the sacrifices you were not willing to make, which can be just spending time with your family.
Well, it's absolutely that. So I think, first of all, I'm so glad that you touched on that and mentioned that. It's of course, you want to have what I have, and I'm saying proverbially, not about me, is like, "Great, you wanna have what I have? Are you willing to do what I did?"
Yeah.
Because when I was 18, 19, 20, and I had this long-term vision, freedom, work with great clients, provide for my family, all that stuff. I spent my Friday nights, Saturday nights at networking events. I went to conferences to listen to speakers, and my friends were going to concerts and festivals, and they would make fun of me, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're stupid business, like you're, a scam, you're gonna make money, like blah 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 blah." I'm like, yeah, that's great, but like I had to look out for myself and my self-interest. So, when I'm 45 and like chilling, then it's like, yeah, I sacrificed my 20s and 30s working hard, eating shit proverbially, just like learning and building and stuff. Well, I invested in myself for 20 years so that I can get that out. So when people say, I'll say for me, one of the rare times is they're like, hey, you're working with CEOs businesses that are like billion-dollar businesses. How did you get there? Because I worked for 20 years to put myself in a position to be here. So like the sacrifice is huge for entrepreneurs, business owners, all that stuff.
How do you think that helped your own business working with bigger, more successful clients?
It's hard to say because Vancouver as a market is like relatively insulated. And there's an expression that I heard is like, you can't be a prophet in your own town. So, like, I basically have very few, with the exception of like Chill Insurance and, a couple nonprofits and some really great companies, WestGen, amazing, like foundational. But most of my clients are outside of BC because I don't know what it is, if it's just like more attractive or culturally or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of big businesses in BC and Vancouver, but it's all technology, real estate, that kind of stuff. So I have good people around me. My clients are great. I love them. But yeah, it was really just like the stepping stone of moving from this client to another client to another client. And just like reps, when people go to the gym and they work out, they work out, work out. The more times you go to the workout, the better you are. Great memory I have of you is when we were hanging out one of the last times. You're like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym and I got 15 minutes. Like, it'd be so easy to write off that, like, 15-minute gym visit because, "Oh, it's only 15 minutes," but you did it. Then you made it a priority. That's stuck in my mind as somebody who's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna make excuses. I'm going to commit to this because it's a commitment," and I just thought that's just an awesome reflection that you might not even be aware of me thinking of you.
Yeah. It's funny, the things we say that we forget about, and for other people, they just stick. Again, Sal here, my business partner, we were playing tennis 2 days ago, and I was telling him, "Man, you see, this is where confidence comes from." 9 months ago, we started talking about this business, and it took 6 months from our time just to actually do it. From having the idea to deciding what to do, etc. And he was getting so impatient. He was like, "Oh man, like I was swamped, with Eyes Multimedia and the podcasts." And I told him, just wait. I'm preparing I'm freeing up my schedule for 3, 4 months from now. Hold on, hold on, hold on. But now we got to a point where we look back and we did everything we set out to do. everything, Anthony, everything. And that's what's making us so confident, right? So, how important is it for you create business plans and you see businesses doing that as well? So, they create all this business plan. How important is it to follow through? So, it's not just a plan.
If it's not even a plan, it's just a wish. Right? So, just on one of there's a lot of Anthonyisms. So as I sit in a room for 2 days with folks, I've got a lot of different things that I try to share. But as people underestimate what they can, do in a year and overestimate what they can do in a month, some version of that. And so, like, for you, you're like, "Okay, if I look at this as, okay, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, I'm not getting anything done." But you spread that out over a year, you can get tons of significant pieces done. I mean, follow through, critically important. Uh Being adaptive, also critically important. So the flip side of having a plan is diverting from the plan if a new plan comes up.
So, that's also important.
It's also important, yeah. But if you don't do the stuff as part of your plan, you just didn't do the work. And so planning the plan, planning the work, working the plan.
And when you are hired by these companies, are you usually hired to help them stay on track or to completely revamp and shake things up and revamp their plan and vision?
Most people hire us when they are doing their strategic planning. So, for example, everything that I've done this year by and large is 2025 booked, and then we're doing planning for 2028. So, we're doing 3-year or 5-year plans. So it's far enough that it's strategic, but it's close enough that it's operational. Most of the time, these businesses are so successful that they just need, it's just like, which turns are they going to make? Um, and then some clients hire us for implementation, which is like the follow through, the follow up, the accountability, the skill building, the coaching as they're going on this 1100-day journey, that we're there to support them, keeping them accountable, working through the questions, working through the unknowns, making sure that they're staying accountable to their plan. Because 3 years is a long time. There's a lot of operational stuff that gets in the way. So how do you balance the strategic work, working on the business, and the operational work, working in the business?
I think we talked about the most common mistakes or challenges that entrepreneurs face in their first years, right? When they're launching a business. Now, for a business that is say 10 years old plus, making $10 million a year plus, what are the most common challenges that those companies are facing?
I think every business has growing stages. So time is, let's call it immaterial. That we say that you're like a solopreneur, no employees. You're just doing it yourself. Then you're going from 1 to 5 or 10 employees. And then from 10 to 20 or so, from 20 to 50 or so, from 50 to 100 or so, 100 to 200, 200 to 500, 500 to 1,000. Those are basically those like changing journeys. So if you're at 10 million, depending on the type of business, you could have maybe 50 employees. You've had to go from being a CEO, startup CEO who did everything, to being able to delegate to a team, to then having like a leadership team around you. And if you're at $10 million, then you really need to make sure that your executive team is empowered to drive forward the business. And you probably have 6 or 7 of them. The next stage post that is that you start getting middle managers, and then you have like layers of not bureaucracy, but people. One person can effectively manage 10 or so people. If you have too many people that you're managing, you're doing a bad job managing them. So you need to start putting layers in place.
And what's your idea of A players, B players, and C players?
In every organization, you likely have A players, B players, C players, based on the definitions. Now, the challenge where people get stuck in some cases is they have A players who are culturally terrible, culturally toxic. And so they allow the toxicity in their organization because that person is an A player. You following what I mean?
Yeah.
So the person performs great on paper, but it makes everybody around them worse. And so if given the choice, I would pick a greater culture fit, so greater team performance than individual performance. because that A player who brings a lot of whatever revenue or output or whatever is making everybody 20% worse. So you're getting 100% of one person, but 80% of everybody else around them.
Just like in sports, so you have those super players and they go from one team to the other, and you think, oh, now they're going to win the championship, but they barely make it to the playoffs or to the quarterfinals, semifinals. And it looks like these star players actually bring the team down.
Mhm. Exactly. So that's like personification of that. Now, there are A players who are also culturally good. They bring other people with them. They're typically referred to as, leaders, right? So the Whitecaps just hired somebody who is presumably a good cultural fit, who has been brought in for 2 years to support them winning, but also teaching and learning and sharing to like make a lasting impact. So so you asked A, B, C players. Good A players with bad culture, I would take the team over the individual. Now, the flip side is if you have a high maturity business, okay, so a high maturity business, a bank, an Oracle, a Microsoft, whatever, right? A business that's been around for a long time, they will hire B players. They will hire B players intentionally, and they will give them a defined role because they don't want them to move too far outside of their box. They are looking for A players, but they actually, on a competency scale of 1 to 5, they are looking for 3. If on a autonomy scale, they are looking for 3. They want good soldiers, so to speak.
Yeah, which makes sense.
It does make sense, but it's not good for every type of business. In a startup or young entrepreneurial business, you need people that are entrepreneurial. You need people that are drivers, that are leaders, that are innovative. You also need people that are the people who will get the work done. If everybody's a big picture thinker, no work gets done. If everybody's just following orders, nobody's leading, nobody's moving forward. So it's another nuance of running a business and getting it to that part where you've got that secret sauce of product, price, place, promotion, and people. And so how do you get that glue together? So that's why they say that first million is harder. And as Arnold Schwarzenegger, he said, that's why I started with the second million. Anyway, the point is, that's the exact same reaction he got, is, that scalability. Once you get to a million, going from 1 to 2 is a lot easier. Getting from 2 to 4 to 5 is a lot easier. From 5 to 10, it's a lot easier. From 10 to 20, it's a lot easier because you've really got the base. The challenge with new businesses is there's no validation. So you're validating so much all the time.
And does it get to a point where a company just plateaus and they can't find the motivation or they can't find a new goal to keep moving forward?
100%. And that's just maturity and then ultimately decline. So in some cases they sell, in some cases the business just kind of disappears. The founder is the one who has to bring a lot of the energy. In some cases, if you've been the founder of the business for 10, 20 years, they might bring in another CEO to lead the business. The founder ultimately gets put in as a board president or something like that, who still owns the business but doesn't actually show up. Meant much of the time. And then that's like the longevity and scalability. So like, it's why it's not Anthony Taylor Consulting, right? We don't actually even consult, we facilitate, but that's another story. I think our business can continue for 100 years. I have no interest in selling it. I want to build something that will outlast me. And so the key part is like making those decisions. Are you making 100-year decisions or are you making 5-year decisions? Are you making 2-year decisions? So it's just a matter of how you approach your business or any decision.
When you have those strategic meetings, those are intense.
Yes.
2 to 3 days. So walk me through the process.
So they're intense because of with our process, SME Strategies process, the amount of content that we cover in that time. So fundamentally, there's 5 steps. Aligning on where are we now? Where are we going? What's going to get in the way? What do we need to do to get us to where we want to go? And then how are we going to stay on top of our plan? And within each of those sections has 1 or 2 or 3 different kind of sub conversations, themes. So we're really trying to like walk a team through where they're at, where they want to go, what's going to get in the way, what do they need to focus on, and then how are they going to stay on top of it?
And you have done this dozens or maybe hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times.
What do you already come prepared for knowing what could possibly go wrong? Like, where's the friction? It gets pretty heated, and some people are not happy. Some people want to leave the room. I witnessed all that.
It would be easier for me to write the plan on paper and give it to them. It'd be so much easier. The challenge is that you have 10, 15, 20, sometimes more people in a room who all have a stake in what's going on. It is their livelihood. It is their jobs. In some cases, they're protecting their little fiefdoms. In other cases, take an Al Shill, but really as an example, a family business or somebody whose name is on the door. It's their baby, proverbially. And so they're like wanting to make sure that it lasts for a long time. Well, I'm working with a company next week. Their business has been around 70 years, third generation. And so all of those people have, they have what they want. They want to be able to get what they want. And so helping them work through the conversations in an effective way. So recognizing not everybody's going to agree, and that's why we don't try to agree. We try to get alignment. Recognizing that there's points of conflict, stickiness, recognizing that there's uncertainty, there's unknowns, there's unknown unknowns, and there's known unknowns. And then everybody wants to win. And so how do you make it a collective win versus an individual win? And then every single group is different.
Yeah.
Every group in time is different. So a session that I would have done in 2020 during kind of COVID is going to be different in 2025 with the state of healthcare happening in the US. So not only do you have internal factors, you have external factors, and then you have age, experience, wisdom, and whatever else. So it's never the same.
It's never the same, but are there any common situations where people don't agree, but they have to get to a
Alignment.
alignment? Yeah, they get to.
I mean, everything. I mean, I don't want to, it's everything, right? Because it's what we're really doing is we're walking a team through a series of steps quickly so that they can kind of figure out what they need to focus on. And some folks are so focused on the road that they forget about the destination, proverbially. It's like, hey, what am I working on? I want to do this project, this project, this project, this project. It's like, well, why? So my Anthony joke is they're like, okay, I want to do this project or this project, we need to decide. I said, okay, let's take a step back. Let's say that you have your wildest dreams for the company. Everybody agree, and at that point, we all agree on what those dreams are. So yeah. So imagine you fed me chocolate bars all day. All you did was feed me chocolate bars. And I was some sort of magic genie, whatever, that if you fed me chocolate bars every day, I would get you over there. You follow with me?
Yeah.
And they say, great, where do you spend your money? Do you spend it on chocolate bars or on these projects?
Chocolate bars?
Chocolate bars.
Yeah.
People get so focused on doing this project or this initiative or that initiative, they forget about why they're doing it. And so a lot of the work that we're doing is reframing how they're thinking about, are you focused on the road or the destination? And then consider your task agnostic. You're just trying to focus on the outcome. And so the work is realigning, refocusing, represencing the outcome and the shared outcome that they're trying to get to as a team. And one other Anthonyism is the name on the front of the jersey, just like you have on your shirt, is more important than the name on the back, whether it's basketball or football or whatever. It's like we're playing for the team, not the individual.
Okay.
And so every individual has what they want, and they're entitled to do that. But when we get together in our strategic planning sessions, the purpose is to get to that like shared outcome as a team. In some cases, it's hard. In some cases, it's easier. But if you're saying, hey, we're at 500 million and we want to get to 700 million, how do we get there? If we want to get to 15 million, we want to get to 20 million. How do we get there? And what is there is actually the bigger question.
So those 5 steps again, can you just list them again?
Where are we now?
Where are we now?
So it technically includes celebrating a SWOT analysis and a pestle analysis. Everything
That is easy,
one,
right? That's more factual. Where we are now.
Factual and perceptive. And if we don't agree on where we're starting from, it makes it hard to agree on where we're ending up. And the other thing is that everybody has a different reality.
Do they perceive where we are now differently?
Of course.
Really?
Well, let's say one person's in sales, one person's in marketing, one person's in operation, one person is in HR, one person is in IT, one person is in manufacturing, one person is in fulfillment, and one person's the secretary. You could have sales rocking and rolling, but operations suck. You could have cyber threats, but you're having manufacturing issues. You could have toxicity in the organization, high turnover in some areas, and the CEO is ignorant to all of it.
Okay.
That's 9 different worlds.
Wow, yeah.
So nothing is true, but it's true to everybody.
Yeah. You see,
And that's not very and that's not
learning a lot.
uncommon.
Are you guys learning anything today? Anything? Okay, I don't want this to end.
So, and in addition,
Okay.
there's where we are, but then we say, well, where is the world going? So we're recording this in 2025. I ask you, where do you think the world is going to be in 2028? Might be different than mine, might be different than theirs. And so are we building our future as a company for what you think is going to happen, what I think is going to happen, theirs, or someone else's? And then there's the degrees of it. Do we think the world is going to be taken over by robots in the next 5 years? Or do you think we're going to go back to, we're going to say no technology whatsoever? Either of those is very possible. And I know you asked me a question. I'm going to digress and I'll come back. In 2018, we did scenario planning for the University of British Columbia, Faculty of Applied Science. And we went for faculty, students, staff to create what they thought the world could be in 2028. Okay, so 10 years later. And we got 80 different potential realities of the world. We asked everybody, hey, where do you think the world is going to be? All of these groups, super intelligent people, we got 80 different ones. The least likely, objectively from my perspective, of the culmination of all of those is where we are right now.
Wow.
It was the craziest, the most far-fetched.
How long ago was that?
It was 2018.
Oh, just 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
6, 7 years ago.
And so the one we're like, no way in hell that's going to happen is exactly what's happening. But you can't build your plan for where you're at. You have to build your plan for where it's going. Okay, so current state. That's how crazy and fun my work is. Current state. Future state includes vision and mission. So where are we going and who are we as an organization? What business are we in? What's going to get in the way? I talk values and culture, because culture eats strategy for breakfast, as well as a risk analysis. Some folks think that strategic planning isn't strategic. Strategy is just choices, what to do and what not to do. There's a famous video, if you're in the circle, it's called Strategic Planning is a Lie. And strategic planning is a lie if you don't do it the way we do it. You have to put constraints to it. So you have to choose and you have to assume that not everything's going to go the way you want, in short. So what's going to get in the way? Values and culture. What do we need to do to move it forward? Strategic priorities, objectives, so qualitative measures, and goals, quantitative measures. So more or less of something, as well as numbers. So the joke that I make is that my version of the kitchen being clean is different than my wife's. So what does good look like? What does more revenue look like? What does more partners mean? You might say, hey, I think that 10 corporate partners would be great. You think that 20 corporate partners or 50 corporate partners. So you show up with your 10 and it's like, well, what the hell? We're short. But you're like, no, I hit my number. You didn't hit your number. You didn't hit our number. So how do we have that collective number? And then how are we going to implement it? Tasks, communication, and then what is the structure to stay on top of our planning? Because most people think of the 2 or 3 days of planning, but they don't think about the 1,100 days, the 3 years of implementation. It's easy to make the plan. It's easy to make the document. It's a lot harder to kind of stay on top of it, to stay focused, to keep it top of mind. And that's the work.
And how important is to have the mission of statement?
Critical. So a mission statement is fundamentally, who are we, what do we do, and who do we do it for? And in the lens of strategic planning, what do we not do? We can't do everything. How do we pick what we do? How do we decide what's in scope, what's out of scope? So it's part of kind of like the overall strategic decision process. But if you don't have a mission statement, then you're going to say yes to everything. An analogy, I think I've got my phone away, but let's say I have 2 phones that ring at the same time. Which phone do I pick up? I can't pick up both. How do I decide as an employee which phone that I answer? Or if I have a meeting, I can't go to both meetings. Which meeting do I go to? How do I make that decision? in organizations with employees. Every single day, they're faced with those decisions or choices. So by putting a strategic plan in place, it helps them make those decisions more effectively. And that's a whole other topic. But so having a mission, a clear mission statement that defines what you do for any X person will support you in decision making on a day-to-day basis.
So it basically keeps you on track.
Yes, but you being the entire organization. So with 100 people, 200 people, 500 people, you need to be able to put leadership and strategic structure to all of the decisions so that they can make the right decisions. If they don't make the right decisions, or if they don't have that structure, they won't make a decision. So it's not that they will take a decision and be wrong. They will avoid being wrong by taking no decision.
For example,
Let's say I have 4 or 5 or 6 different projects to work on that I could work on at any given time, and they're all on my desk as a middle manager. How do I choose which of those projects is the biggest priority? Seemingly, they're all equal.
damn it, I need that. I need that right now in my life. We have what? Yeah.
So how do you decide?
I decide whenever I have the time to do one, I work on one, and then when something else comes up, I
Which is
stop.
fine, but you have agency. No one is going to get mad at you for prioritizing the wrong thing.
Mhm. As long as you know what you're prioritizing.
Well, you know, because you're the boss.
Yeah.
But what if you had an employee who had a boss who had a boss, and they're faced with the exact same thing?
That's much worse.
It's much harder, and it happens at scale, and it happens fast, and there's probably insufficient communication down all of those levels to hear what's the boss's priority, what is the executive priorities, what is the middle manager's priority for discretionary time.
So when the team doesn't know what to tackle first, when let's say these priorities are not laid out so clearly, is it fair to say that it's the business owners or the CEOs or the leadership's fault?
Yes.
I recently started taking more ownership on the staff's performance because of lack of training. So I am a little bit more hands-on now, going, hey, let me show you how it's done. Taking the time to sit down with them and go through not only the steps at work, but also sharing the vision. Because I think some people might think that you should not let your staff know. It's not important to let them know where the company is going, etc. Like pretty much keep it secret. Let them just
I think that's dumb, by the way, keeping it secret.
let them just do their job. They don't need to understand the whole vision. They should be good at doing what they have to do only. But I disagree. I think, and I'm sure we're going to be on the same page on this. I think it helps tremendously when they know why you're doing things and where you're all headed, right?
Otherwise, if they don't know where you're headed, how can they make sure that you go there?
Yeah, it sounds so simple, but it's not so easy to do, Anthony.
I think the trap, let's call it a trap, is that they want to protect their employees.
Yeah.
But often I find in leadership, they do the thing, so they have an intended outcome. They do a thing to achieve the intended outcome, or more precisely, avoid an outcome, and they get the outcome that they were trying to avoid. So I am not going to tell my employees about where we're going because I don't want to confuse them. I don't overwhelm them. I don't want to create any friction between us. Let's call that. What ends up happening by not telling them the vision, there's friction, there's unknowing, and there's resentment. So that the unintended consequence that they were trying to avoid, I find more than often actually happens by taking that cautious action. I want to hide them from political risk. I'm trying to protect them. Meanwhile, you're just making their life harder and more miserable by withholding information. By and large, withholding information, withholding communication is the number one thing that messes teams up. Information and communication.
And from the 5 steps again, which one seems to be the hardest?
The third and the fifth, I suppose. because the fifth is the longest and the third is the most important. So aligning on the vision is the most important, and the one that takes the most amount of time is the implementation, and the likelihood that you're going to get misaligned during implementation is almost certain.
Is it common for you to actually get to the end and give these guys, your clients, some pieces of advice or recommendations and then having them not follow through?
Yes, I mean, by nature, as a business owner, you're stubborn. I think the goal is to make sure that it's their plan versus our plan. So if I told them what to do for the 2 days, they would say, "It's the consultant's plan." I can go 2 days without telling anybody anything, just asking good questions. At the end of the day is I said, "You said you wanted to go here." At the end of the 2 days, it has no difference to me if you implement your plan or not. But you said you wanted to go here. You said this is why it's important. You said that these are your biggest priorities. So if you don't do it, it's on you.
So what happens when they don't do it?
Nothing. Yeah, can't be. They don't get to where they want to go. That's it, right? We said the whole thing is, where do you want to go? And what do you need to do to get there? If you don't do the plan, you don't get to where you want to go.
Anthony Taylor, biggest mistake you have made in your personal business journey?
Man, I've spent so much money on useless stuff. I've invested in myself. Uh, but I don't think it's like one mistake.
So you spent wasted
Oh, I've like hired people that like
coaches?
no, like hired employees. I would say they're like employees, but they're not even like big mistakes. Like they're learnings. Like I mean, this is not going to answer your question. Is that I've just like learned. Like my business partner ripping me off got me an MBA, right? But spend 100 grand and I learned that. I hired bad employees, so now I know
How to spot them.
how to spot the ones that are great, because through the process, I've had phenomenal people work on my team, like culturally fit, built great things, all of those things. So I don't think that there's like anything that I view as a mistake, truly. I think it's just a learning. Now, were they expensive? Yes. Could I have done without them? Probably. I think it's probably just making decisions too quickly. I would say if there is like mistakes here holistically, is going too fast. My stupid friend said, "You make a fast decision, it's just a speeding ticket." So I've paid my share in speeding tickets. Proverbially, I don't drive that fast.
Where do you see us going in the near future? Business-wise, economically, financially? And what is next for you?
Let's say I'm bullish on Canada, generally speaking. I am bullish on trades, generally speaking. I think it's going to get a lot worse for a lot of people, but I think it's going to like a new world economy will probably pan out. I think it's going to get really challenging. I like farming. I would love to have a vertical farm business in the future. And in terms of what's next for me, I mean, I'm gonna be around for the next 20, 30 years doing this stuff. I don't like I do it for the money. It's great, but I just love doing what I'm doing, helping people. So maybe less travel, maybe more speaking. But yeah, no, just still helping people everywhere I can go.
Great. Maybe you're looking at the camera there for young adults who are maybe in high school, maybe in college, or maybe graduated or didn't go to college, and they want to start their first business. One or a few pieces of advice.
I'll turn over here. Okay. Number one piece of advice, the thing that's supported me in my life and career, is the idea of compound interest on learning. So everybody talks about compound interest in investing. It'll support you getting your retirement and all those things. And critically important, if you can get financial independence early, do it. But compound interest on learning. If you are a young person, doesn't matter where you're at, be a sponge for learning. Read books, talk to people, go to conferences, all that stuff when you're 15, 16, 20, 25, because you're going to build on all of those ideas for the rest of your life. And so if you can start getting those ideas and germinating them, you have no way of knowing what they're going to turn into, but you'll absolutely get compound interest on it because you'll have it in your database, and it'll be it'll be priceless for you. So
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
thanks, Elton.
Okay, before we wrap up, we have something for you here. Sal, can you bring the gift for Anthony Taylor? There we go.
Oh, sweet. Excellent. I'm so excited for this, actually.
Yeah, we have a
These are
goodies
really
for
good.
you.
I'm not even No cap, as the kids say. I am so excited for this.
This is the alcoholic version,
Okay, excellent.
right? 7%. Don't do like I did. Don't drink it
Do you
while they're at work.
non-alcoholic version?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
But this is great because I won't get to enjoy it. These are beautiful too.
Great.
This is art. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. We're going to put the link here also in the description for SME Strategy.
Sweet.
Where can people find you and who should contact you for help?
So I can't help anybody, but Anthony C. Taylor on the internet, SMEstrategy.net. If you're interested, got tons of free downloads, workbooks, brand new white papers, that kind of stuff. If you're a leadership team or a CEO or HR person, you're not exactly sure if your team is on the same page, going the same direction. You're likely $20 million in more revenue, Canada, US, but really globally. We facilitate strategic planning sessions and talk to us, free consultation, and support you in working through that process.
All over North America? You went to Dubai as well once.
Fiji is as far as I've gone. We facilitated a session in France. We've got a potential opportunity in Guam. And so, there's countries in Africa, a couple opportunities there. So,
Cool.
around the world.
So as long as it's in English, you can go.
If it's in English or French, I can do French.
Oh, je savais pas.
Right.
Cool. So, briefly about your books. Who are those 2 books for, each of them?
I wish I knew for any new or aspiring entrepreneur. I think really anybody. I don't even know how many lessons I've learned, but it's a decent read. And then Alignment is the process of a for-profit and a nonprofit leader walking through their own organizational challenges. So anybody that's leading an organization, senior manager, middle manager. I'll also take the opportunity to say we have a strategy execution course that is designed to help middle managers build up their strategy chops. So courses.smestrategy.net. And there's a link there to our 3 digital courses, but the leading strategy execution one, critically important for anybody who's want to train up their middle managers on just strategic thinking.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So make sure you go in the description now, all the way to the bottom, and find all the links that you might need. Okay? Thank you, Anthony. That was so nice. I really don't want this to end.
Hang out, come back. I'll do another episode, talk about whatever you want. That was awesome.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for sticking with us until the end of this episode. Remember, if you're on YouTube, let's share this episode with anybody that is interested in business, anybody that you look up to, or that you think that this content would be good for them to get to the next level in their lives. And remember to like it and to subscribe to our channel, okay? Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next episode.